Yeah, you got to roll with the punches. Welcome back, everybody, to Hibernian Radio. This is show number 309. We're brought to you by Madden Funds, Local 150, Fox's Pizza, and Flood Brothers Disposal. My name's Patty Houlihan. I'll be your host all hour. Joining me is a returning guest, been on the program several times when Big Mike Houlihan was the host behind the program. He's widely known as a sounding board and in some circles maybe a bit controversial here in the city of Chicago. When at the time of his retirement, he was the longest tenured paramedic on the Chicago Fire Department with a total of 45 years, 7 months, and 28 days. That's a hell of a run. And he's here with me tonight. Please welcome Patrick Fitzmaurice. Pat, how are you? Welcome back.
I'm doing well. How are you?
It's good. It's good to have you. This is my first time talking to you. I've seen you on the show here many times, and you're always an entertaining character and willing to say what's on your mind, and that's refreshing because that's why we have this program. Sometimes we get guys that are a little bit apprehensive to want to show their true colors, and that's never been the case with Pat Fitzmaurice or in your career at all.
No.
Tell me a little bit about how you wound up as a paramedic in the Chicago Fire Department.
I was working at a restaurant, Italian beef stand.
Roma's,
yes. And I was just, what am I going to do? I'm 21 years old. I'm going to work at a beef stand for the rest of my life. And I had a job with the city as the park district, but it was only a summer job. And the owner's father approached me one day, and he goes, well, listen, go see this guy. He's in your ward, 39th ward.
Yeah.
Talk to him.
Yeah.
So they sent me down to City Hall, and I was going to apply to be a garbage man and laborer. And we got the line moved, and it came to me, and the guy come out, and he goes, full stop, no more openings in the street sanitation. He goes, what we do is we have some openings as a MICU attendant. I had no idea what that was. So he said, you would work on the Chicago Fire Department ambulances, driving them. And if you went, then you would have to go to school, be an EMT and a paramedic. And if you did that, then you would be absorbed as a sworn badge member. So I called my mom. I'm like, what's with this other job? Yeah. And she happened to be with a friend whose husband was a fireman. They called him up, and he's like, take that job. Don't hesitate. You work one day on, you got 2 days off. Every fifth day, you got 5 days off. Just do it. So I took it, and it was like on a Wednesday, and by Monday, I was in the fire academy. Was
there a probie period at that time when you started?
We were sort of like just tossed to the wolves,
Yeah.
They had no real program for us. They didn't really know what to do with us. They had paramedics out there, but we were not exactly welcome when open with open arms,
What year was this?
75.
Okay.
Because what happened was Quinn said no. He was a commissioner. He says, no, we don't want them. People would rather go out in style in the back of a Cadillac.
Right.
And I says, okay. And out of the clear blue sky, Daly, apparently he caught that. I heard that he caught that TV show Emergency. I Want That.
Oh, which was like a Rescue 911 precursor.
I want that. And Quinn said no. And it was the only time Daly told him, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
And so they picked a lot of guys came from the suburbs to come to Chicago. I think that was one of our big problems. We got these guys from the suburbs. They thought they were, God's gift,
Well, they got to learn the streets too.
Well, they got to learn the streets. We had to learn how to fit in the fire department. It was there. Someone told me a long time ago, hey, Pat, it's always going to be called the Chicago Fire Department. It ain't never going to be called Chicago EMS. So we were just in there. And then I was on the list to be a police officer.
Yeah.
And one day I go home and my mom goes, you got to tell him, Jack. You got to tell him. He goes, I don't want to tell him nothing. Jack, you got to tell him. Tell me what?
Was Jack your dad?
Hand me the letter. Yeah, my dad's passed away. My mom's passed away.
Yeah.
Hand me the letter, and it said that I was accepted to the police department.
Oh.
And I had to come in on Monday. And
now you're conflicted. What do I want to do? Because you started to like the job.
Right. I was engaged. I was engaged to who would be my wife, Marilyn, and I told her, and I didn't agree to get married to a policeman.
Oh.
I agreed to get married to a paramedic.
Okay.
So I let it go.
Yeah.
And as my old boss, Ray Roscoe, used to say, you'd be dead or in jail if you'd have become a cop.
Now, in all of you had the longest tenure. And is there any sort of leadership role inside the department dedicated to the EMTs and paramedics?
Yeah, well, at the end of my career, I was they call it field chief, essentially a battalion chief. I had the busiest ambulances in the city. And then above me is another rank, assistant deputy chief paramedic. Yeah, there was a rank structure. We had to fight for it. We didn't get it at first.
Right.
We had to fight for everything we got. We had to fight to get in the pension. We had to fight to get in the union. We had to sue them to get in the pension.
Yeah.
Then when we got in the pension, they didn't want we left the municipal city workers pension, and we wanted to carry our money over to their pension. No. And I'm like, who turns down billions of dollars? We had to sue them for that. Mm-hmm. It was a struggle, but little by little, the one good thing about it, and I don't, any firemen out there listening, don't take this the wrong way. I was never in the firehouse that long. We were busy.
Yeah.
So I'd have to put up with it. Occasionally there was some nonsense, but I honestly believe when I look back, a lot of it was because these guys came from the suburbs. Well, I was a paramedic and fireman in Mount Prospect, and we're going to take over.
Yeah.
Shut up, man. Just do your job.
We got a different way of doing things.
Yeah, try to get along here. Try to get along.
Now in Chicago, and now this dates me back to when I was considering trying to become a firefighter myself. Chicago was the one place where you didn't have to be an EMT.
No.
To get on.
No. Still don't.
You still don't.
Still don't.
But if you want to be a fireman in any other neighboring suburban community around here,
you have to be a paramedic.
It's mandated that you're a paramedic before you even get on.
You have to be. And I always pushed for that because I always felt that was the key. That was the way, we were going to get more and more paramedics on the job. But we've been, they've cross-trained them now. So we have a whole lot of guys that are on, as they say, as they cross the floor, they're on fire engines as firefighter paramedics. So, it was a struggle. I'm not going to deny it. At one point, I'd say it was more upper management that did. They didn't respect what we did. We just were an afterthought to them. And I didn't take to that too well.
Sure. Well, and that's how you became. At what point in your career did you decide and take it upon yourself to start being a sounding board and reaching out to the media on behalf of the rest of your paramedics?
It was sort of a rather strange coincidence the way it went down. We were fighting to get in the union, fighting for this, fighting for that. It wasn't going nowhere. They didn't listen to us. They didn't care what we said. Mm-hmm. And the brass. And there was an incident at Cabrini Green where the elevators weren't working. They wouldn't let the paramedics use the stairwell because they were selling dope there.
Right.
The kid died. And
who wouldn't let him use the stairwells? The gangbangers?
The gangbangers.
Yeah.
And the kid died, and the media made a big deal about it. Channel 2 just ripped the paramedics. Mm-hmm. So I called him up one day after I heard my call. I got the new number in the news.
Who was it? Pam Zechman?
No, actually it wasn't. It was probably Bill Curtis. And I talked to the news desk. I'm listening, you guys don't know what the hell's going on. This is no joke. You don't just walk into Cabrini Green and tell the gangbangers to get out of the way. They'll kill you. We don't even have radios. Once we leave that ambulance, we're alone. We had nothing.
Yeah.
They didn't even give us radios. And the guy's name was Bruce Dumont. And we had a long conversation, and he's like, man, you really opened my eyes. And then one day I get a call from him, and he asked me if I would go on his radio show. And everybody told me, don't do it. And I'm like, I'm going.
Other guys in the firehouse?
Yeah, don't do it. Don't blow
the whistle.
Even my brother said, what do they do to the nail that pops up? They hammer it down. I go, well, then they're going to have to hammer me down. Yep. I went on the show, and I thought I did pretty good. And it was about a week later that somebody goes, man, I heard you on the radio. I go, what? Yeah, I heard you on the radio. I go, what do you mean you heard me on the radio? He goes, yeah, I was listening to WBBM, whatever it was.
CBS, BBM.
And I heard you on the radio. And then someone else, and someone from high school called me up. He goes, what were you doing on the radio? You sounded really good. And I said, damn, I got more attention from one obscure radio show
Yeah.
than all the moaning and screaming I did.
Interdepartmentally. Yeah.
And that's when I decided. I called up Pam Zekman, and I told her, the intern, what was going on. And Pam says she recalls the conversation because she was like, furiously telling the girl,
Yeah.
get his number.
Get him on the phone.
So she got my number, and they called me back, and it basically said, prove it. So I went. It was not hard at all. I went to work one day, just started copying the journal. 20, from Wrigley Field to 63rd and State Street.
Oh, the calls journal?
Yeah. From Wrigley Field to 63rd and State Street. From Chicago and Lamont to Rosemont and Clark. 25, 30-minute response times.
Yep.
So she said, well, that's good. It's a good start. Can you get me more? And
you did.
And I went to the guy who was the EMS rep for the union, and I told him what was going on. And he goes, let me talk to some people.
Yeah.
And he come back, he goes, let's do it. Let's go.
So the union cleared it. They were okay with it?
No, EMS, the union, they were not.
Because the Chicago Fire Department union would not want to be a part of that.
They did not want us to do it. They did not want us to do it.
Yeah.
And the only thing was, I'll never forget, she said to me, she goes, Pat, if I find out that the problem is you guys, that's the story.
Uh-huh.
And I said, Pam, you don't have to worry about it. It ain't us. It's them. I mean, I remember one of the things where I was featured. It was just my run. We had a cardiac arrest victim. My monitor didn't work. Called for a second ambulance. Their monitor didn't work. Called for the third ambulance. His monitor worked, but the ambulance died. It was like the Three Stooges were running the department.
Yeah.
And she won an Emmy. She ran the series every night for a week.
Okay.
Every night for a week. And she promised, and she was as good as her word. She wasn't going back. And she wasn't giving up any names. And so I would go to her whenever we had something. Went to Dave Savini, too.
Yeah.
And he did some work, when he was at someone.
Fox? Was he with Fox?
He was with NBC.
Okay.
But it was always Pam. Yeah. Pam was the linchpin, and the thing about I love her was that she would never tell, she would tell him, I remember she told me we two things: never send me text messages or emails. Always
call.
Pam, give me a call.
Yeah.
And then I would tell her on the phone what we had. And because it got in the 90s, man, they were out to get me.
I bet.
They were pulling my computer. They come into the firehouse and they pulled the computer and they're going through what everybody did on the computer. And IED had me. And then
but they couldn't restrict your access to any of it, correct? Or could they?
They thought they could, because they go, well, why are you searching a run at 69th and State Street?
Yeah, you're not in that area.
I said, because I'm a paramedic field chief for the city of Chicago. I don't know if it's something bad. I could be there and be 5 minutes from now. I could be getting dispatched. My job is to know where every ambulance is, because it's like, Piggy, move up. This ambulance is at 69th Street, and then another ambulance is taking their calls, and then the next thing you know, my ambulances are going there. So it's my job. That's why I was there. And they tried to make it make trouble for me with that.
How many ambulances were you overlooking?
Oh, I had, ambulance 3, 10, 15, 23, 33, 44, 52, then eventually 63, 64. So I had 9 ambulances. And at the time I had probably 8, and then went 7, then it went to 9.
Yeah.
And the main thing, I didn't care.
And how many are there in the entire city of Chicago?
I think they're in the 70s now.
Okay.
They're still short. Everyone knows they're short.
Oh yeah, big time.
But the idiot mayor doesn't care. Probably might not even know. You'd have to give it to him as a gift.
Well, the response times are awful.
Yeah.
Are you
very much so?
Oh, they're awful.
I saw the other day.
And I'm not knocking any of our paramedics.
No, there's nothing you could do. first of all, as they taught us when we were learning how to drive those things, it don't do you no good to get in an accident 5 blocks from where you're supposed to go.
Sure.
You have to use caution going there, and you do the best you can.
Yeah, your adrenaline's pumping. You know, you got, yep.
I the other day I heard an ambulance going to Belmont and Harlem from Mount Sinai.
Oh, that's a long. That's wide.
It's insane. Some guy got hit by a car. He's laying on the
and the ambulance
ground.
is 30 minutes away.
Yeah, I had one where we had to wait for 40 minutes for an ambulance, and he was on a motorcycle. He was baking in the sun. We had to have the firemen standing over him with their coats to cover to keep him in the shade.
Yeah.
So it was bad, and little by little they put him on, and then I got a friend of mine who passed away, Joe Hernandez. Said, "I'll get you in to see the mayor's chief of staff, but I wouldn't do it if I were you, Pat. Don't do it. Don't do it, Pat." I'm like, "Hey, screw you."
Well, he knows how to tease you, doesn't he?
I'm going.
Hey, I'll get you in there, but don't do it.
He said he would, so he did, but he didn't. He thought it was going to be a bad move for me career-wise.
Okay.
I said, "I don't care. I'm going."
Yeah.
So I went to go see him, and I brought him runs.
Who was the mayor at the time?
Daly.
Daly, yeah.
Yeah, Daly.
Did you get along with Daly?
I don't know. I remember one time I was at a picnic, working at the Senior Citizens picnic, and they introduced me to him.
Yeah.
And he shook my hand like this. Like he grabbed my hand, and he held it, and he...
He's like, "How do I know you?"
And he looked at me. He goes, and you could see it. He goes, "You're the guy.
Yeah.
You're the guy.
You're the mouth."
And when I walked away from him, everyone goes, "Fitz, I got chills on my spine. You see what he did?" So what? My brother calls me, "Pat, they know who you are. They want you to back off." I go, "Hey, well, tell them give me 10 more ambulances. Otherwise, it ain't happening."
Yeah.
And I just didn't care. I didn't care. And I give a lot of credit to my wife, because there were times that,
So Hernandez got you in. What happened?
Well, so I go in to see the chief of staff, brought him a bunch of proof about long, huge response times. She brought the commissioner in. They said they were going to look at it. And then after a few weeks later, they brought me back in with the commissioner, and they said, we decided to go with ALS ambulances. And I said to her, Sarah Pang, I go, Miss Pang.
What's that mean? They're going to outsource? Is that what they're saying?
No, they were going to turn single role paramedics into cross-trained firefighter paramedics.
I got it.
Make engine companies ALS. And I said, yeah, that'll take 10 years, 15 years before they can get it done.
Oh, yeah.
This guy's not going anywhere. And I ended the conversation. I go, you know what? I came in here as a courtesy. But it's simple. Either you're going to put more ambulances on, or I'm going to the media. She goes, are you threatening me? I go, no, I'm promising you.
Yeah.
And she goes, you're what? I go, I'm promising you. Stay tuned. And Altman was sitting there. He goes, what'd you say? I go, you heard exactly what I said. See you on the TV news.
Yeah.
And I walked out of there, and I had a couple of guys working with me, and I said, that's it. Here we go.
Get ready for some fireworks.
It was rock and roll, man. And we buried them.
Yep.
We buried them. And they tried to pin me big time. They brought guys in there, and because the Tribune did a story, and they had all these run sheets, and they wanted to know who gave them to them, and say it was a violation of HIPAA law.
Yeah.
And everybody, if your run was one of them, they would get in there and they'd say, Pat, you tell us that Fitzmaurice gave you the run, and you can walk out of here. If not, we're going to look to move to suspend you. Nobody would give me up.
Oh, wow.
Nobody gave me up.
That's saying something. You had some loyal friends there.
And they brought me down there. And I remember the IAD guy, and I had the union guy sitting next to me, and they asked me a question, and I morphed into the Godfather, and I went to him. I go, yeah. And I answered the question. They asked me another one. And I mean, even simple. State your name.
Pat whispers.
State your name and file number.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like you're one of the outfit bosses in front of the Senate here.
Exactly. That's what it was. Oh, were they mad? They were furious,
Yeah.
And, we.
Now, did you get a lot of flack from other firemen on the job? Like, you're bringing heat on us, man.
A lot of firemen didn't like it.
I believe it.
See, the problem with what the firemen didn't like was,
yeah,
in their world, it's a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
If we get, they got to give.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to give up anything. And it was one of my paramedics, George. He told one of the firemen going off on me, my big mouth, and going on TV. And he said, "You know what? If he was a fireman doing the same thing for more fire trucks and 5 men on the engine, you'd love him. You'd have a parade for him. But because it's paramedics, you don't care." Mm-hmm. And just shut the whole room up.
Yeah.
Shut the whole room up.
Yeah.
And then when I went out there, they saw I worked my ass off out there. I didn't duck no runs.
Yeah.
I did the job the way it was supposed to be done. So, I had a lot of guys that felt the same way as me, man. And I told them, stay back.
Now, what's going on present day? Are you still in tune with what they're dealing with at all? No.
Time for them to step up and fight their own fights, because I got nothing. What am I going to say? I'm retired 4 years that I know what's going on. I'm not an elected union member, a union official, so
sure,
it's their fight to fight.
I bet a lot of them were sad to see you go.
I get that all the time. That man, we miss you. I wish we had you.
Because they don't have anybody to champion their stuff.
But and a lot of them are in a bad way in that if they got a long memory, man. They got a long memory, and
well, it's a hard job.
Well, yeah, and you want to get promoted? Go ahead, speak up. You may have just cut your throat to never get promoted.
Yeah.
And I got lucky. I really did. I really got lucky. Cortez Trotter was the deputy commissioner of EMS. And I debated him twice on Channel 11. And my brother, who was in the painters union, said, "Listen, Pat, don't make it personal with this guy. I'm telling you, I know I don't agree with what you're doing, but I'm telling you, just don't make it personal." Mm-hmm. And I never did. I never made it personal with them.
So you're cordial with them.
Yeah. Well, I get
it.
Well, like I actually told him, I go, "Cortez, boss, it's just like The Godfather. It ain't personal, it's business." It's the way it was.
Yeah. And you suck.
And he said, and no, actually, they went after me. And he backed me. He told me right then and there, he goes, "You've got to understand something. If you publicly criticize the fire commissioner and the mayor, you're going to get flack. But as far as I'm concerned, if you do your job, you won't get hurt. Just do your job."
Yeah.
And I did. I said, "Well, you got me there." And little by little, I started to realize he sort of liked what I was doing, because I could say what he couldn't say.
Sure.
And as I remember one time talking to somebody
for political reasons,
I said, what I don't get about this is Daley is Trotter. Trotter is Daley's guy. Why doesn't Trotter go to Daley and tell him Fitzmaurice is right, Altman's lying? Mm-hmm. And the guy, wisdom, like your father would have. He said,
"Yep,
in Daley's world, if Cortez would rat on Altman, that means he's a rat.
Yeah.
He'd rat on me."
Daley. Yep.
So
I got it.
No rat zone. So Trotter left it for me to do the fighting.
Well, I respect Trotter in that respect too. Then
and then
nobody likes a rat.
He offered me a position on his command staff.
Oh, wow.
He offered me a position on his command staff. Nobody could figure it out. I remember one time it was EMS week, and Trotter was there, and I walked up to him and someone goes, "Oh, man, you better get ready to separate these two." Uh-huh. Then they couldn't get it when we were laughing, joking with each other.
Yeah.
Because he saw what I was doing. He knew I was right, and this was a way for him to get what he wanted to get. And when he became fire commissioner,
he's a good politician.
Yeah,
he understood.
Yeah,
he knows how to play the game,
and he understood how to fight went, because he had to fight every day.
Sure,
he had to fight.
Yeah,
I mean, he didn't have it easy. These guys didn't like him. He was black, and he was a paramedic, and he was and little by little he was becoming Daley's go-to guy because he was sharp.
Well, I think that the fact that you understood the dynamics that he had in his role helped that you guys were able to develop a relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then he promoted me, and I went to work for him as the department inspector. And
what's that job?
My job, it's funny because I thought, I was like, what is he going to have me doing? And he just wanted me to go out and make sure that things were being done on the street the way they're supposed to be doing, following the SMOs, following policy.
Right.
And I'll never forget, everybody's, Fitz is out there right now, hires on guys.
So, when they saw you coming, they'd be like, oh, no.
They would, but I never. One guy goes, I don't know why everybody's so afraid of this guy. He caught me 3 times, and every time I caught him, I just told him, don't do it again.
Right. I'm not going to write you up.
Don't do it again.
Yeah.
Learn from your mistake. Okay, I caught you. You're wrong. You know you're wrong. Just don't do it again.
Yeah.
And that's the way it was, because Trotter actually told me, he goes, if you're going to go out there and start writing IRs, I got the wrong guy.
Yeah.
I don't need that.
Yeah.
I don't need that. First of all, everything's a situation.
You're just going to create more work for us.
Well, it's going to create animosity. No one's going to be happy about it. And everything's a situation. I remember going to one house where they didn't have the monitor in the house. Well, that's a big offense.
Yeah.
Well, why didn't they have the monitor in the house? Because they had already brought it out. They brought it in, then they brought it out because they were going to get the guy out of the house. So should I come in there charging like a bull and complaining? No. Wait it out. What's the situation?
Right.
Good. We're good. No problem.
Yeah, we're light on monitors.
And then I worked for Ray Roscoe. It was the same thing. Ray was like, let's go about this nice and easy.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to rake guys up. Some guys, at the end there, it became like, this is no joke anymore, and
yeah, you messed up 3 strikes now.
Well, like I said to Ray. Ray goes, what's the big deal about it,
And for our listeners who don't know, Ray was the fire commissioner.
Yeah, fire commissioner. I said, Ray, here's the deal. Those monitors record everything. Everything. So if you get on the scene at 1,800 hours and you don't defibrillate them to 1,820, it's a matter of record.
You're going to sue the city.
It's a matter of record. You can get.
Yeah.
You can and will get sued for that.
Yes.
And I said, if someone ever dies,
mm-hmm.
and the mayor will be being asked, why didn't the paramedics bring in their most expensive and
best piece of technology, right?
Piece of technology, and the mayor's going to go, Ray, you want to take that question?
Yeah.
Ray goes, that's it. Let's go. So
right.
we put the word out. A lot of guys didn't like it, but and now at one point we were toward the bottom of the barrel in saves for cardiac arrest,
mm-hmm.
and then we start bringing the monitor in every run that justified, and not every run, but these are the runs where you had to have it. And start bringing the monitor in.
What's the indicator that you're going to need it on a run? When someone calls 911 and says, I think someone's having a heart attack?
Shortness of breath, had a seizure, stroke, a gunshot, things like that. So we completely revamped how we did cardiac arrest, how we managed them.
Yes.
And we basically stopped bringing them out to the ambulance, and we started, so if he found me on this floor, we're working him right here. And I'm like, that's not going to go on the west side. Get him out of here. Take him to the hospital.
Yeah, get him out of the scene.
But it was exactly like they told me. And I would tell the family, I would say, he's either going to be saved here
or he's going to die in that ambulance.
He's going to die because there's nothing that they're going to do at the hospital that we're not doing now. And all of a sudden, our save ratio went sky high. We were on par with Seattle because we were saving so many people. And
primarily gunshot victims?
No, cardiac arrest.
Okay.
And at the fire department, to their credit, decided to capitalize on that, or I don't want to be that would be the word. They wanted to
publicize it more.
Not even publicize.
It's good PR for the department.
They wanted to hammer it in to the paramedics how effective this was.
Okay.
So they started out when on EMS week they would bring people who we saved
to talk to them.
The fire, and you would meet them. You would meet them, and you would get awards. You'd see the hospital. They brought them in,
mm-hmm.
and if he walked out of the hospital, you got an award.
Yeah.
And it was called a Cardiac Arrest Life-Saving Award.
That's great.
And a ROSC, a Return to Spontaneous Respirations. And it was a big success.
Yeah.
And, that was it was a long process. And it's weird because when I first started, that's the way we did it. Everything right there. We'd go in the house, work right in the house, and then leave.
And then they took that away?
No, we just, little by little, we started, getting away from that.
Yeah.
You did have problems. People were like, why don't you take them to the hospital?
Well, panic family members standing over you.
Absolutely, screaming and yelling.
Yeah.
But there's nothing like it, though. I tell you, the day I retired, the lady said to me from the news station, why'd you stay here? Why'd you stay so long? And I said, well, number one, them. I mean, I love being with them. I love knowing that every day, right now, there's somebody in the city of Chicago whose life is going to be saved by paramedics. Happens every damn day. Every damn day. And we just, the woman asked me, and I said, there's nothing in the world like walking into somebody's house and the family's standing there all crying, hysterical, and there's the father on the floor dead, and you start working on him, and you're working on him,
and you get him back.
On him, and all of a sudden I got pulses.
Right.
I got a blood pressure.
Right.
I got breathing. I said, you could take the winning touchdown in the Super Bowl, ninth inning home run in the World Series. Nothing beats that. Nothing. It's not even in the same ballpark. To look at them and say, we're taking him to the hospital. He's breathing on his own now.
He's going to make
and
it.
They'd be like, looking at you like, they're watching him lay there dead.
Yeah.
And now you just saved him. And it became real common that we would be saving him.
Well, for the amount of ups that there are in your past line of work, there were plenty of downs.
Oh yeah.
And I'm curious to know. Well, first, my first question is, how many paramedics are on the department, or at least at the time of your retirement?
Oh, at the time of my retirement, I don't know, maybe 1,000 or more.
Okay. And how many of them are on? There are 1,000 registered guys, but at any given time working in a firehouse, there's how many allocated to each house?
Two.
All
right. Two per day. If you're in a house with an ambulance, there's 2 paramedics working that day.
Okay. And then, is there any sort of things did you have to deal with PTSD and other guys was there a support group for paramedics?
No,
the way that there are for firefighters and police officers?
There were some deals. I had a couple issues. I had a girl at O'Hare run over by an airplane.
Yeah.
She was backing the plane up, and
like a controller, like one of the girls
backing the plane up.
Yeah.
And if the plane's wheel, if it's going to go that way, if it's going to go this way, they turn the wheel that way.
The other way, yeah.
And she's supposed to be. If they're going this way, she's supposed to be on this side.
Yep.
But the jack didn't work, so she went over to the other side. The cord got caught in the wheel. She went to grab it, and she got sucked up between the nose gear. And we found her laying there, and she was screaming.
Oh, sure.
Unbelievable, hideous scream.
Mm-hmm.
And I just we wanted to give her morphine, but we couldn't.
Was she in 2 pieces?
No, she was alive.
Okay.
All the skin off of one of her leg was completely
ripped
what they call
off.
degloved, just ripped off. And it was so bad that when we brought her into Lieutenant General, the doctors walked in and looked at her, walked out, and then went back in. And I drove home. I was getting all the equipment, and a brand new fireman was with us that day. He looks at me, he's like pointing at me, and I go, what? What's the problem?
Yeah.
What's the problem? And I look, and I had big chunks of flesh on me.
Oh,
and
my God.
And I took the flesh off, and I flipped it in the garbage can.
Oh.
And the nurse saw that. And so later that
She
night,
wanted it. For a skin graft?
She called me to see if I was okay.
Yeah.
And I says, yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah.
And then I got my car to go home in the morning, and I ended up in Indiana. And I don't know how.
Oh, you just drove off.
I just drove and drove and drove. Then I got home, and
thinking about it, just your
Channel 2 wanted to interview me, and the fire department called me up, and they're like, I wouldn't do it if I were you.
Yeah.
And this was the one time I agreed with him. I don't want to talk to him. So we had to go to I had to go to a Bear game that night. So we went to the Bear game, and I was just pounding beer, but I couldn't get drunk.
Yeah.
And I kept telling everybody what happened, and like, oh man, stop it,
Right.
And like we had a beef set, like, look at this is what it looked like.
Right.
And
you're looking for all the gallows humor.
And I went home, but I didn't go home, and I ended up on Cicero Avenue in Belden, and I was just sitting there staring, and cops pull up and they recognize me. They go, "What are you doing, Fitz?" I go, "That was the place, man." And he goes, "What are you talking about?" I go, that was where the fireman died. We found his head. And I was brand new on the job, and I wanted to go to that call. I wanted to go to that call so damn bad. I kept hearing it, send another ambulance, send us. And they sent us. And I got there just as they found the head. And I was like, oh. And I had flashbacks.
So you were having flashbacks?
I had flashbacks to that. I had flashbacks to going into a house where a woman had literally taken big, huge pots and put them on the stove and boiled them.
And burned her kid.
Put the water in the tub and then dunked her kids in them. And her skin was hanging off. The kids were.
So all the evil things, awful things you'd ever seen.
All those things start coming back to me. And I got home and I was talking to my wife and I was telling her that. And she's like, "Pat, you better get some help. You got to talk to somebody."
Yeah.
So I called up this nurse. She said, "Listen, if you need anything, this is my number." I called her up and we talked the next day. Must have been for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And I felt better after that. And she says, "Check in with me next week.
Yeah.
And I'll decide if we need, and let me decide whether we need to do an intervention." But by then I got
already back on the job.
Much better, yeah.
Yeah.
And I got much better. And then I remember going into a class that they had on. They gave us a class on stress. And the one guy saw me and he was like, "Pat, don't be a jerk in there today." I go, "Enzo."
Oh, he's gonna start. Yeah.
Enzo, trust me on this one. I know this is real. This is for real. And if you want, I'll be the first one to raise my hand and say, "I know what it's like because I went through it."
Oh, he thought you were going to be the other way around?
Yeah.
Thought you were going to be a hard ass about it?
Yeah, go have a six-pack. You'll be all right.
Right.
And
right.
I know to this day, if I wouldn't have got that help from that lady,
yeah.
I don't know what would have happened to me.
What was her name? You remember her name?
No, don't even remember her name. I remember what she looks like, but I don't remember her name.
An angel. First responder. Nurses are first responders.
And it became from that point on, it became a lot easier to deal with it. But when my father died, I came back again.
Yeah.
I literally remember going to the hospital and he had a stroke and he was like looking at me like this. And I told the doc, "Doc, just let him go. It's not what he wants. It's not what he wants."
Right.
And the doc goes, "Pat, he's got a pulse." I go, "He's breathing." I go, "Just leave the room. I'll put a pillow over his face. He doesn't want this.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to live like this."
Yeah.
And the doctor goes, "Let Pat, let's let us, And then he arrested and they were unable to resuscitate him. But I went to his wake and his funeral and I never shed a tear.
Really?
I never shed a tear. And it was this thing like, you cut your emotions off and you just function. And I thought, my wife goes, "There's something wrong, Pat."
Yeah.
Father.
Yeah.
I didn't even cry.
Yeah, you're desensitized entirely.
And I started thinking about it. I called that nurse again, and she goes, "It's
part of it.
common. You're desensitized. You've seen so many people die.
Yeah.
You've seen so many people suffer." And I ended up, getting well. I got right with it. I understood what went on.
Well, I asked it because I don't think it's spoken of much. Everyone's always worried about the coppers or the firemen, but the paramedics are the guys who see the real gruesome stuff and deal with it.
I remember
and how do they get that vision out of their head?
I saved a picture of my shoes soaked in blood, and I had a Sunday, beautiful Sunday, spring Sunday. 12-year-old kid asks his mom after church, "Could he go to the store?" He goes to the store. Joe Gangbanger pulls up. Joe Gangbanger's walking out. Pop, 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 pop,
shot him.
Kid's looking up at me, begging me, "Don't let me die. Don't let me die. I don't want to die."
Oh my God!
And I'm like, "Don't worry, you're gonna be all right. You're gonna die." I knew he was gonna die.
Yeah.
I absolutely knew he was gonna die.
Yeah.
And his mom, I got out of the ambulance so that they're getting ready to go, and she's like, "I want to go with them." There was no room in there because there's a paramedic in there. There's 2 firemen in there. I said, "Don't worry, the police will get you to the hospital." She goes, "I want to see my baby." You gotta go. You'll see. You'll talk. I knew she was gonna get to the hospital and he was gonna be dead.
Never saw her again.
It's just.
Yeah, that's hard. That's the hardest part of it. I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
The girl that got shot on the 4th of July, I had her, and I remember sitting in my car, and I start punching the window, and I'm like, "Who does this? Who does this? Who drives up to a crowd of people and opens up on them with kids playing in the yard?" And the girl got hit, and I'll to this day, I'll never forget the doctor going, 1822, call it.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. You know?
Yeah, I mean, you have a much different perspective than the general public does on the level of insane violence that has happened in this city.
Oh, absolutely. And shootings constantly, you know. And the first thing I noticed was, you could tell, fireworks or gunshot, look for the kids. If it's fireworks, they keep playing. If it's gunshots,
everyone's down.
They're on the down. They know. And it's just pathetic and sad. And I remember being on ambulance 15 as a paramedic and going into a house and real nice house, real clean, real nice family. And the mother was sick. And the father says, well, we want to go to St. Mary's. Mm-hmm. We don't want to go to Loretto. And
you don't have a choice.
Okay with me.
I
didn't care. Free gas. It's my name.
Yep.
I'll take you there.
Yep.
So he goes to pack up her stuff, and I'm talking to the kids. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking to the kids, and I said to the kid, I go, how come you guys ain't outside playing ball? It's beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful
it's
day.
70 degrees out there in the park right there.
Yeah.
And the father gives me the dirtiest.
Where were you, on the west side of Columbus Park area?
Yeah, right around there.
Yep.
And the father gives me this dirty look.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like
you ignorant
you
fool.
don't like me talking to his kids? I don't know what it is. And he come up to me, he goes, my kids can't play in the park.
I don't allow it.
I don't allow it. I take them wherever they go.
I can't blame him.
Absolutely. And
loves his children. Yeah.
And it wasn't all that, I mean,
yeah.
I was just thinking, when I was on 15, one of these days I got to run into Kerry Wood.
The baseball player?
Yeah. I'm working the day he struck out 20.
Yes.
And we go into this guy's house. And we go into the guy's house, and I told him you got to go to the hospital. He goes, I ain't going to the hospital. He goes, Kerry Wood struck out 17 people. I'm not going to the hospital. I go, you got to go. I ain't going. I go, listen, please, I'll tell you what we'll do. I will make sure you have a TV in the hospital, and we'll put the game on the radio, but you got to go.
Yeah.
And he's watching the TV. So we take him out of the house. We bring him in there. Turn that radio on.
Yeah.
Turn the radio on. And he struck out 18.
Right.
He goes, we get them to the hospital. He goes, I'm walking out of here if I don't see a TV.
Yeah.
So you better get him a TV. This guy's going to walk out of there. And so everybody's got it. Where were you when Kerry Wood struck out 20 guys? That's the best one yet. The guy he was not going to leave that house until he saw that.
Pat, we're at the end. I can't believe it. It's been an enjoyable hour. I've enjoyed the hell out of this hour. You're always entertaining. You've been a champion for all paramedics here in the city of Chicago, and you should be proud.
I am. I'm proud of what I did. I'm glad we accomplished something. And
I was going to ask you, before we go to the break here, if there's any advice you'd want to give to any paramedics that might be listening. Any words of wisdom or comfort?
Don't let it. Don't let this stuff eat you up, man. If you see something that's not good, and you take it home, I get to go home and kiss your wife and hug your kids. Get help.
Yeah.
Get help, because it's sometimes, in my case, I saw a pretty horrible thing, but it was just a conversation on the phone that made me feel better, that made me understand what I was going through. Mm-hmm. If you need that help, you got to go get it, and then be safe, no matter what. There's nothing accomplished by you getting hurt. Everybody goes home, no matter what. Everyone goes home, and if it don't look good, it ain't good. When the hairs on the back of your neck start to tingle, get out of there. Get the police, wait for the police, do whatever you got to do, but don't ever put yourself in a situation where you get jammed up. I used to tell my guys every day, situational awareness. I used to wear the bulletproof vest, and I never thought somebody was going to walk up to me and go, paramedic, and shoot me. But if they were shooting at somebody at 25-10 and I was at 25-12, oh well.
Patrick Fitzmaurice, thank you, sir. We'll be back with more Hibernian Radio after these.